Good evening. The regular business meeting of the Independent School District 279 School Board is called to order at 6:05 p.m. on March 23rd, 2021. This regular business meeting of the Osseo School Board is being conducted in person in compliance with Minnesota Statute 13D.01. However, due to the current pandemic and consistent with directives of the CDC and applicable executive orders, it is not feasible to conduct this meeting in person without restricting the number of persons in attendance. Consistent with current health guidance and applicable executive orders, up to 9 members of the community are able to present in the boardroom with us tonight, and space has been made for an additional 15 persons to attend on-site in the nearby cafeteria. Consistent with Executive Order 2081, a face covering is required to be worn by all individuals present at the meeting unless an exception from the executive order exists. Face coverings may be temporarily removed when speaking. All right, seating in front of you this evening from my left and your right is Director Tamara Grady, Director Thomas Brooks, Director Mosqueda Jones, myself, Director Dawson Walton, Director Tanya Simons, Director Heather Douglas, Superintendent McIntyre, General Counsel Tim Palmetier are also present in the boardroom. The superintendent's cabinet and other district administrators are seated in another conference room with the live stream of this meeting being shown on a monitor. Individuals will come into the boardroom as needed. Those who can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Simons, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Board members, in front of you is the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Director Douglas, seconded by Director Brooks to accept the printed agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. The next agenda item is audience opportunity to address the school board. I will review a few of the guidelines for those who will speak to the board this evening. During audience opportunity to address the school board, I will call on each speaker who has submitted a speaker card. We ask that speakers keep their comments to 3 minutes. The board does not take action or discuss matters during the portion of the meeting. Speakers may be referred to the superintendent or staff if follow-up is necessary. The complete guidelines for public participation are provided on the materials table and on the school board section of the district website. When I call your name, please come to the microphone and state your topic, and also state whether or not you are a district resident. Per the Governor's Executive Order 2081, Item 10C, speakers may remove their face covering when addressing the board, if they so choose, and so as long as the social distancing requirement of 6 or more feet is maintained. After each speaker is finished, the podium microphone will be cleaned with disinfectant. Okay, so first up, we have Jenny Yang.
Good evening, Superintendent McIntyre and Board Directors. I am a parent in the Osseo School District and former member of ACMAC and the fiscal committees. And tonight, I'm here to say that I fully support the resolution condemning xenophobic, racist, and all anti-Asian attacks. First, I would like to say that I also stand in solidarity with our Black, Indigenous, Jewish, Muslim, and other communities of color who have experienced racism. Tonight, I'm not here to educate you on the history of racism against Asian Americans because there are too many to share, nor am I going to teach you about the cultural nuances. However, I want to state that we are not the model minority. It is a myth that some people choose to believe, nor are we all the same. Asian Americans experience racism. Asian Americans experience microaggressions. Asian Americans are Americans. According to Stop AAPI Hate, a reporting center located at the San Francisco State University, there have been over 3,795 incidents since the beginning of the pandemic. This includes the ones that are reported, and there are countless other unheard stories. These types of incidents include verbal harassment, workplace discrimination, there are civil rights violations, and the most violent of them all, physical assault resulting in injury or death. It is unfortunate that it took the death of 6 Asian American women in Atlanta for people to wake up to see the heightened racism and violence towards Asian Americans during the pandemic. I might be standing alone up here, but I know that I am not alone when I say that many in my community are scared to go out in public spaces where we could be targeted because of who we are and how we look. So as district leaders, you need to protect our students and staff. You need to affirm their existence, their pain, and suffering. I commend the board for putting the resolution forward, and I want to thank the superintendent for publicly acknowledging anti-Asian racism in his statement on Friday. However, I demand the board and the district to do better, to create policies and procedures to protect our students and staff from harm and trauma. My fear is that when an incident occurs, there will be no follow-through, no thorough investigation, and no disciplinary actions against those who committed the hate crime. What do I tell my daughter when she asks if it's safe for her to go to school? Asian American families are concerned and want to protect their kids, and we want to know what is the process for parents to report an incident. What happens after the incident is reported? Whom in the district do we call to ensure accountability? How will we know that school leaders are aware of and understand the current climate and situation for Asian Americans? What kind of resources, trainings, and information are teachers and support staff receiving about the surge in anti-Asian racism? Finally, I urge the board to pass the resolution because our Asian American students need you to step up. Our Asian American staff need you to see and hear them. Our Asian American families and community are waiting to be partners with the district. And we will be watching what you do next, and we will hold you accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Chang?
Hello, thank you for having me today. My name is Michelle Chang. I work for the Coalition of Asian American Leaders as their lead organizer for education. The Coalition of Asian American Leaders is a social justice organization with 4,000 network leaders who span at least 20 of Minnesota's 40-plus Asian ethnic groups. I'm here today on behalf of CAL, or the Coalition of Asian American Leaders, and as an older sibling of 2 Brooklyn Middle School students who I brought along today. I fully support the resolution on condemning xenophobic, racist, and all anti-Asian attacks elevated by COVID-19. I believe that this resolution is a step in the right direction. Since the coronavirus was discovered, Asian American communities across the country and in Minnesota have been stigmatized by terms like China virus and Kung flu, coming from the very top of our government. The scapegoating led to almost 4,000 incidents of hate reported nationwide, including many in Minnesota. Several incidents in the last year have created great concern for the Asian Minnesotan community, including when a family in Austin, Minnesota had a derogatory term burned onto their lawn. And just recently, when a grandfather and his grandson was waiting at a school bus stop on the east side of St. Paul, and a woman started shouting at them, "Go back to your country. If you don't go back, we're going to kill you." Derogatory terms like this are painful and hurtful for our community. Violence against Asian and Asian Americans are not new. Anti-Asian racism has occurred since Asians first immigrated to the U.S. I want my siblings and other youth to be proud of their Asian heritage and to not be afraid about showing up as their fullest selves at school. This goes for all Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and Asian students because our liberation is tied together. Osceola School District is their second home, and all students deserve to feel safe. Thank you, Superintendent McIntyre, for the statement you sent out last week to condemn anti-Asian racism. While this and the resolution are a step in the right direction, I want to see concrete action from the district. I urge the district to include anti-Asian racism in your overall anti-Asian anti-racism and analysis work, provide clear processes for families to report incidents and be transparent about what that follow-up looks like, and then provide trainings, resources, and information to teachers and support staff about the surge in anti-Asian racism.
30 seconds.
And lastly, hire more Asian staff members, especially in the equity department. Thank you, and again, I urge you to pass this resolution. Schools are like a second home to students, and all students deserve to be safe.
Thank you. Jean Fox.
I'm going to take mine down or I won't be able to see with my glasses fogging up. Good evening, school board, Superintendent McIntyre, audience. My name's Jean Fox, and I'm a resident of 32 years here in the school district. I also work for the district. I come tonight to speak about the technology levy that I voted on a few years back and how great it was knowing that our teachers and our students and families would be supported in technology. Little did I know that some of the staff would fall through the cracks. That would be support staff. We have some that don't have devices. We have outdated devices for them, so they're unable to help our students as we pivot regularly through what we call this pandemic. When I started in 2005 in the district, it was so great going into buildings to see computer labs. We had carts going into classrooms to help students with their teachers. I started the journey in the district in elementary settings. Then I came to Park Center Senior High 7 years ago, and I support our EL community. The year I started at Park Center, we got we got iPads. I went out and bought my own just so I could support kids, because at times theirs wasn't charged, they had forgotten them. That way they could use mine while they did their schoolwork. Now we flash forward to Chromebooks. The year that those were coming out, I contacted the district to find out exactly what kind of devices we were going to be used. And when I brought it to the training, I was told I bought just a titch a little bit better than the teachers were getting. But I had purchased that on my own. Many can't do that because they are working several shifts just to be able to get life or health insurance to support their families. In March of 2020, the pandemic threw us into homes for supporting our students. Some ESPs were working from their phones. Here we are to support when ourselves don't have what we need, and as helping our students, I'm fortunate enough to have this Chromebook, but the other day we received 2 new students, and they were told they would get their Chromebooks in 5 to 10 days. That's 2 weeks of them not being able to do work, and these students did not have cell phones to be able to do it or home computers. We put them on computers at school when they're there because they're only there 2 days a week. And eventually that will not be an option either because we will be losing our desktops in our classrooms. So I'm asking that we fix this so our students can have their devices sooner than 2 weeks after they've started with us. I am giving up my Chromebook for these kids to be able to work in the classroom and not have to be sent somewhere else to try to find a desktop. And I'm asking that our staff also is given what is needed for those of us that do support. I'm fortunate enough that my building has given me a device, but I also have my own personal one to fall back on. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Superintendent McIntyre.
All right, thank you, Chair Dawson Walton. Good evening, board members. Good evening, members of the audience. So before we get to points of pride tonight, I know there's a related item on the agenda that was brought up earlier in the meeting during our opportunity to address the board. And as I shared in my superintendent statement last Friday, I just wanted to take a moment to again say how I, as superintendent, want all our students, staff, and families, and especially our members of our Asian American, and Asian Pacific Islander communities to know that our school district recognizes that racism, hate language, and violence that they're experiencing are real, and exacerbated by the pandemic. Please know that we see you, hear you, respect you, and stand with you, and will continue that work to disrupt racism in all forms. As a district, we condemn xenophobia, racism, violence, and hate language against Asian Americans and Asian Pacific Islander communities and all other communities of color and Indigenous peoples. In our core values that we have posted throughout this building and in every building, we affirm that everyone has equal intrinsic value and everyone benefits when cultural differences are acknowledged and understood, and that individuals are treated respectfully and equitably. We value and honor our district's racial and cultural diversity, and we will continue to take an unwavering stand against any actions that seek to harm the children, employees, and families we serve. So thank you. So tonight, as I move into our points of pride, there's a number of areas that we wanted to celebrate. And as a part of the normal superintendent's report, we do share these points of pride to celebrate student, staff, and community members who are contributing to the accomplishments of our mission, which is to inspire and prepare all students with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. So Joan's going to kind of help with some visuals here as we move through. And in the area of achieving dreams, I wanted to highlight the Park Center Senior High Symphony Orchestra and the Brooklyn Middle School Performance Choir, who were selected to perform virtually at the Minnesota Music Educators Association Midwinter Clinic, the largest professional development conference in the state for our music educators. And it's been a challenging year for music in our schools across the country and in our state and in our district. Park Center's orchestra performed pieces by underrepresented composers, and Brooklyn Middle's choir performed in small groups with students providing both vocal and instrumental accompaniment. So congratulations to them. Garden City Elementary and Northview Middle School are among the first schools in the state to be recognized by the American School Counselor Association for their delivery of exemplary school counseling programs. We're very proud. Honorees of the prestigious RAMP designation, which stands for Recognized ASCD Model Programs, which is their overarching association for counselors. They were awarded this honor for demonstrating best practices, creating data-driven programs, and helping close the achievement gap. And Garden City went above and beyond and was named RAMP School of Distinction. So congratulations to Garden City. Last month, NASA's Perseverance Mars rover arrived at the, I'm going to always say this wrong, the Jezero crater. I practice it and practice it, and I still can't say it right. Jezero crater, a dry lake bed on Mars, and a lot of us saw the videos of that. Osseo Middle School's alum Sam Biyun, a member of the Maple Grove Senior High class of 2018, was tuning in to watch as a NASA intern. So our own alumni participating in that NASA effort. In the areas of contributing to community, and many of us participated in this event, but the District 279 Foundation's A Night In event raised an estimated $50,000 right at the buzzer to provide enriching and learning opportunities for students in Osseo area schools. And I did want to just give a thank you to the attendees that evening, the sponsors, the donors, to our host, Brian Severson Hall, and to our MC that night, which was Jason DeRusha from WCCO TV, for all the show of support for our students. It was a very fun event. In the area of lifelong learning, 2 district employees that we've previously talked about before, whose learning and development opportunities were delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, now have the opportunity to take part in their respective programs within the next year. A Fulbright Leaders for Global Schools program grant will take Kristen Hauge, principal at our OALC and the Distance Learning Academy, to Finland to learn about best practices for preparing students for careers in citizenship in a global economy. And Megan Thompson, a social studies teacher at Osseo Senior High, will have up to $24,000 of her master's degree funded by the James Madison Memorial Fellowship. Very excited for both of them. The Birch Grove Elementary School for the Arts has been named the 2020 National Magnet School of Distinction by the Magnet Schools of America, the National Association for Magnet and Theme-Based Schools. Schools receiving these awards are judged on their demonstrated ability to raise student achievement, promote racial and social economic diversity, and provide integrated curricula and instruction, and foster strong partnerships that enhance the school's theme. So congratulations to Birch Grove. In the area of mission-driven employees, Osseo Area Schools educators Chris Holson, Peter Pearson, and Jessica Stewart were among 75 teachers statewide to be nominated for the 2021 Minnesota Teacher of the Year Award. Olson is the drama teacher at Birch Grove Elementary School for the Arts. Pearson teaches 4th grade at Fernbrook Elementary, and Stewart is a social studies educator at Osseo Senior High. Earlier this month, we received the news that Jessica Stewart has been named one of the 25 semifinalists for the award. So congratulations to all 3 of these phenomenal educators. And last month at our last board meeting, I did briefly recognize the impact of our school bus drivers, and it was School Bus Driver Recognition Week, or week back in February, and I just wanted to circle back to that and recognize our drivers again for that declaration by the governor in February. In our district, bus drivers have gone above and beyond to deliver meals, educational materials, technology, participate in staff parades throughout the school communities during distance learning, and ensure that all students are arriving to school safely, especially as we come back on April 6th to full in-person learning. So just want to again share with you some of the photos from some of those celebrations in appreciation of our drivers. From March 7th to March 13th, we celebrated our district school social workers. Our school social workers promote students' social and emotional learning and coordinate with community services for families in need. This year, they've gone above and beyond to support families through a time of high stress and increased challenges, and we really do want to take a moment to thank them for all they do. In a non-pandemic school year, our district's music staff meet several times throughout the year. You can't see me smiling beneath my mask, but to play together as an ensemble. They didn't let distance stop them. Last month, they shared a jazzy rendition of Gordon Goodwin's Act Your Age, and you can find it on YouTube. Just search for ISD 279 Staff Jazz. Always love to recognize our talented staff. And just a couple additional reminders as I wrap up my superintendent's report. I wanted to just provide a reminder to our students and families that, again, full in-person learning for our secondary students starts Tuesday, April 6th, for our middle school and high school students. I'd like to mention that we are enrolling students at all grade levels for next school year on a rolling basis, and the way to start the process is to go to district279.org/enroll. Lastly, spring orientations for next year's incoming class of kindergartners are underway at every elementary school. Our goal is to keep and help every kindergarten student and their family to be well informed so they can prepare for a smooth transition to school, especially with such a challenging year this year. And any family that didn't hear from us directly can visit their school's website for more information. So Chair Dawson Walton, that concludes my superintendent's report for this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So our next agenda item is school board committee reports. Director Douglas, do you have any committee report or update?
Actually, that is a good question. Director Brooks, would you like to give the report for DPAC this time?
I'll do it. It's brief.
Okay,
Yeah.
and no, I do not have it.
All right. Director Simon.
Yes, so the District 279 Foundation Board of Trustees meeting was held on Thursday, March 11th. So I'm the liaison from the board to the foundation board, and really, covered internal business of the foundation. But of note, just wanted to mention the night in this time, and that was a very successful event, and that it met the expectations that were planned for it. There's more we can always give more. There's always more opportunity to give, but it was successful. One of the upcoming events to keep in mind will be the virtual 5K coming up in August. So right now that's identified as virtual, and I'm assuming we're going to be sticking that, but maybe that'll change. So so there'll be more information on that. Just would encourage everyone to continue to support the foundation, and you don't need an event to give. You can give anytime. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Excellent. Director Mosqueda Jones.
Yes, and having been former liaison to the 279 Foundation, excellent report. I appreciate that a lot. So my report is on the District 287. We had 2 meetings since our last meeting, mostly regular business item, budget reports, updates, approving calendar, things like that, update on captioning and ADA requirements, disability adaptations. And then we, as a board, attended a workshop on conducting a superintendent search. So that's pretty much it for 287 and my reports.
Thank you. Director Brooks.
Yes, so 2 committee reports, DPAC. So I don't want to give too much away on this, but the 3 committees have, they've been hard at work narrowing down their recommendations to the board. Next steps at this point are to begin to prepare for the presentation that we'll all get to see. I think it's April 27th is what I'm looking at. So I know at least one of the committees is putting some extra time in, data and assessment. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that report coming up. And then we just had our first policy committee meeting today. And we reviewed, and part of this is coming up later in the meeting, policy 413, prohibition against discrimination, harassment, and violence. So this is being updated to reflect some Title IX protections, including gender identity and expression. And we also reviewed policy 613 on graduation requirements. Again, presentation coming up later today, which addresses American Indian regalia at graduation ceremonies. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Grady.
Hello. This month, on March 10th, I attended the Northwest Suburban Integration School District meeting where we approved the budget, and they are preparing for an upcoming event called Giving Voice, a leadership conference for high school students on Wednesday, May 5th. It's an option for them to learn teamwork, leadership skills, and encourage post-secondary enrollment. On March 12th, I watched a presentation here in the boardroom by Jessica Stewart's Race and Culture 2 class. I want to say thank you to our students Yinka Abolade, Anise Patina, and Malika Freeman. I was so impressed with their evidence-based research methods, the personal and academic growth that demonstrated, and their leadership in advocating for equity in all of our curriculum. And then finally, last week, I met with the APAC group, the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, on March 17th. I wanted to listen and more fully understand their issues, like the policy that Director Brooks suggested, talked about for graduation regalia. I also heard about the importance of Indian education for the academic development of Indigenous students, and a need to reflect on our curriculum in order to provide a more accurate history that is told from different points of view. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the only report I have is with AMSD, the session is in full swing, and there's a lot going on. On Friday, we have a legislative committee meeting, so I'll have more of an update after that meeting. So our presentation this evening is the Winter Pulse Survey results, led by Assistant Superintendent of Equity and Achievement, Michael Lehan, and Director of Learning and Assessment, Jeremy Williams.
Director Dawson-Walton, we don't have our screens on.
Oh, yeah, we don't.
Because as we get into the data, I'd like to be able to see it in front. I
Would
mean,
you
I
turn
could
it
probably pull
on?
it up, but I just don't know if they're, oh, they're, okay.
For-
All right, is it broad? Okay.
Mine was off, too.
Okay.
Mine was off.
I didn't know if it wasn't broadcast.
No, yeah, I know, I saw Jackie, so.
Everyone turns theirs on now. Check.
It was on at one point, I swear.
In all fairness, I was thinking the same thing about it.
Whew, okay. Take it away, Jeremy. Michael.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent McIntyre, fellow cabinet members, and members of the viewing audience. With me this evening is Jeremy Willie, Director of Learning and Achievement, and we are excited to share information with each of you about our Winter Pulse Survey results. I would also like to acknowledge the work of Tom Watkins and Jenna Johnsoy Arstead. They have not only been instrumental in collaborating with us with this presentation, but have done so much of the heavy lifting, constructing, delivering, and analyzing the data we are sharing with you this evening. This evening, the intent of this presentation is that board members will examine various data points related to Osseo Area Schools Winter Pulse Survey Report from the February 2021 administration and learn about the strategic improvement efforts to address this data. And as each of you remember, this is the model that we also rolled out with the world's best workforce. We were able to identify some of the gaps, the opportunities, and then how we are being responsive to these things, to these items. To begin our conversation around this work, we wanted to highlight the connection between our newly adopted strategic directions as part of our strategic planning efforts over the course of the last year. To further illuminate the connection with our Winter Pulse Survey results, you will see aligned indicators at the bottom of each page. To ground us, our identified strategic directions are that students' academic experience, academic excellence for all students, closing and eradicating racial and other educational gaps, stakeholder engagement, operational excellence, financial structure, and enrollment planning, and enhancing support and creating a system of shared accountability and partnership. The Winter Pulse Survey was administered in January and February of this year. As was the case in the fall, all current staff were invited to participate along with representative samples of students in grades 3 through 12 and families of students pre-K through grade 12. We heard from 51% of our staff, 62% of our students in the sample, and 38% of families in the sample. Students and family results were statistically adjusted to account for minor differences in group response rates to achieve the most representative results possible with the data collected. Staff and students were sent survey links to their district email address. Families were emailed the survey link and could read and respond in English, Spanish, Somali, Vietnamese, and Hmong. Families without an email on file were contacted via phone. If a student transitioned to a different learning model in the past week, families were asked to respond to the survey while thinking about the former learning model. There were minimal adjustments to the student and family survey questions to allow for analysis and trends over time from fall to winter. The staff survey was partially modified from the fall to include more questions for our non-licensed staff members. One general theme that I will share is that the solutions are in the specifics. You will find that specific groups will respond differently to different questions. That poses a challenge for generalizing the findings and offers more meaningful feedback for staff working with stakeholders in different groups. At this time, I would like to welcome Jeremy Willie to begin sharing our findings.
As we begin examining this data by looking at a number of different tables, I wanted to acknowledge in advance that there is quite a bit of information condensed on these slides. To examine the information more closely, please feel free to reference the Winter Pulse Survey report that Superintendent McIntyre shared with you previously. The percent of students giving positive responses is reported in the chart shown, which includes yes always and mostly yes responses for most survey questions. For the other questions, it included 8 or more hours of sleep and 1 or more days of tutoring or homework help. The percent positive is reported for all groups with 10 or more students. Responses are color-coded relative to all group results within the same row. Darker green indicates more positive results, while red indicates less positive results. Throughout the course of this presentation, both positive results and results indicating a potential opportunity for growth will be shared on each slide. As we consider this information, it is worthwhile to note that 74% of all students indicated that they have at least one adult that they can turn to if there's a problem. Conversely, our Hispanic English-speaking students indicated the least positive results across all 4 questions asked on this slide. This slide represents a continuation of the previous slide with the 6 remaining questions from the Pulse survey. On this table, 94% of students indicate that their teachers expect them to work hard, and 80% of all students indicate that their teachers listen to their ideas. On the other hand, our American Indian or Hawaiian students, as compared to all students, indicated between 11 and 24% less positive responses in 4 of the 6 questions on this table. This slide indicates the percent positive, similar to the previous 2 slides. However, it reports the same questions by grade range, gender, and service groups. In considering this information, we can see that our multilingual learners provide the most positive responses across 3 service levels in terms of participating in support systems offered outside of the regular school day. In contrast, our high school students indicate the least positive results across 3 of the 4 questions asked on this section of the table. This slide again represents a continuation of the previous slide with the 6 remaining questions. And here we can see that our students receiving services for other health disabilities indicated the highest or one of the highest percent positive on most questions. Students receiving services for autism shared responses that were 9 or more percentage points below the district average on 4 of these 6 questions. Here we begin to look at survey results from November to February for students in Osseo area schools. Again, the change in percent positive is reported below, which includes yes always and mostly yes for most survey questions. For the other questions, it included 8 or more hours of sleep and 1 or more day of tutoring or homework help. Groups with 50 or more students were reported. Change scores were color-coded relative to all groups in the same row. Again, darker green indicates more positive results, while red indicates less positive results. As we consider this information, we can see that our multiracial students had the highest or the second highest change on 3 of the 4 questions from November to February. Conversely, our multilingual learners were 4 or more percentage points below the average change on most of these questions from November to February. This slide represents a continuation of the previous slide with the 5 remaining questions. And on this table, as we consider these results, multiracial students had the highest average change on the majority of questions. In addition, high school students consistently indicated above average change scores across 4 of 5 questions asked, which included talking with someone at home about what they are learning and feeling a sense of belonging when in class online. On the other hand, our Asian students indicate that they are experiencing less positive results in terms of feeling a sense of belonging in class. This graph illustrates the percent of students reporting 8 or more hours of sleep by gender in grades 5, 8, 9, and 11, including the Minnesota Student Survey in 2019, with state average in blue, our district average in red. The green bar indicates results from our Fall Pulse survey, while the purple bar indicates results from our Winter Pulse survey. In February, sleep remained above the levels reported by students at both the state and district levels in 2019. With that said, our Hispanic English-speaking students expressed the most need for sleep across all reporting groups. This graph illustrates the percent of students reporting participation in 1 or more days of tutoring, homework help, or academic programs outside of the school day by gender in grades 5, 8, 9, and 11, including the Minnesota Student Survey in 2019. From November to February, male students' participation in support programming increased by 5%, while participation of female students increased by 11%. Multilingual, special education, and elementary students participated in support programming with the highest percentages. The student groups participating in tutoring the least in February were English-speaking Hispanic students, students in grade 9 through 12, and English-speaking white students.
Jimmy, I had to look over to see if you needed a drink of water before I go to the next part. The Family Winter Pulse Survey was available February 2nd through February 16th to a demographically representative sample of families from across Osseo area schools with students in early childhood through high school, and 38% responded. This response rate was comparable to that of a fall version of our survey, which was 40%.
In transitioning to our family survey response rates, the number responding row indicates the number of families responding from each group for the families with available data. The results below indicate the percent of the entire group responding unless otherwise stated. Also, the percentages represent the rate of families within a group selecting a particular response, except in cases where the two most positive ratings were grouped together. Yes, always, and mostly yes. Color coding was assigned across each survey question with higher percentages in green and lower percentages in red. In considering this information, our early childhood and multilingual learners have the highest percentages indicating that their classes were interesting, while our Hispanic students feel most strongly that their classes are challenging. In contrast, our Hispanic and high school families had the lowest rates of having someone at home who is able to support them with schoolwork when needed. This slide shows the responses to each survey question similar to the previous slide. However, it reports the results by Osseo ethnic group and student learning model. Here we can see that overall 82% of all families feel that their student thinks that their classes are more interesting in our in-person model for instruction. As we think about the extent to which families feel as though their students' classes are challenging, we can see our East African and Hmong families indicated the lowest rates of challenge. Here we look at survey results from December to February for families in Osseo area schools. These results indicate the percent of the entire group responding unless otherwise stated. As we consider this information, the percentage of families saying someone at home is available to help their students with schoolwork when needed received the most positive responses overall across both the fall and winter surveys. Conversely, a trend exists where the younger grade levels responded more positively about their classes being interesting than our older grade levels. This slide represents a continuation of the previous slide with the same questions by Osseo ethnic and student learning model groups. And in this table, groups that responded yes always or mostly yes to the statement, my student thinks their classes are challenging, are at the highest rates were West African families who increased by 49% from fall to winter. On the other hand, English-speaking Hispanic families saw the largest declines from fall to winter in responses to the questions, my student thinks that their classes are interesting, and my student thinks that their classes are challenging. This slide is the first of several slides to follow, which indicates the top 5 most frequently occurring qualitative responses from families to the following question. What has worked well for you this year that you hope to continue next year? So number 1, you can see good communication with parents, good teachers, student is having a good experience, flexibility and pace, and doing school from anywhere have all been things that have worked well this year. This slide indicates the top most frequently occurring qualitative responses to the question, in the past week, what challenges has your student experienced in completing schoolwork? Number 1, student needs better engagement accountability. 2, better teacher or staff communication. 3, experiencing technology issues. Students needing one-on-one support. And lastly, students struggling with lesson comprehension. Finally, this slide indicates the top 5 most frequently occurring qualitative responses to the question, what additional support does your student need from the school or district at this time? With students needing more one-on-one time with their teachers as being the number 1 response in this area. Also identified, we're needing more support, a desire for in-person learning, teacher communication, and help with increasing engagement.
As we transition to the Winter Pulse Survey responses from staff, I want to remind you that we asked all current staff to respond. Several questions were directed to all staff, and some were just directed to instructional staff. In some cases, benchmark questions were used to allow comparisons to a national sample.
We'll start by exploring the percent positive by race, gender, and work location. The first two sets of rows in this table contain the percent of staff who are positive about the statement, agree, strongly agree, mostly yes, or yes always, with green equaling more agreement and red equaling less agreement. The third set provides the percent of staff expressing this statement when asked, what has worked well this year that you hope to continue next year, with green equaling more commonly mentioned. The final set provides the percent of staff expressing this statement when asked, what additional support do you need at this time, with red equaling more commonly requested responses. In considering this information, our Hispanic staff members provided some of the most favorable responses on our winter pulse surveys across several questions asked on this table. All of the responding Hispanic staff indicated that their jobs are important and that their colleagues are committed to doing quality work. In contrast, American Indian, multiracial, and high school staff members indicated less favorable results across multiple questions listed on this table. This slide again represents a continuation of the previous slide with the same questions, but this time by employee groups. So here we can see that our administrative assistants, our clerical and EL ESPs, and 2 administrative groups indicated the most positive responses across all questions asked on the Winter Pulse Survey. As we think about the extent to which other staff indicate positive responses, our instructional ESPs, as well as our core and non-core teachers, provided the least favorable responses across multiple questions asked. In reviewing these 2 graphs, which illustrate results over time, the following 2 questions were asked in which respondents indicated their level of agreement with, first, I have family members or colleagues that can help me process stress and emotions, and second, staff at school make me feel welcome. As we consider this information, we can see that a 5% increase was observed from November to February in the percentage of staff overall who responded yes always to the question regarding help for processing stress and emotions. Conversely, a decrease in positive percentages responses has occurred over time in terms of staff members indicating that they strongly agree that staff make them feel welcome at school, as 43% strongly agreed in November, while 36% agreed in February. On this table, staff were asked to indicate their level of agreement with several statements regarding their experiences while working for Osseo area schools. You can see that 94% of all staff indicated that they know what is expected of them. 91% feel as though their job is important, and 96% of staff believe that their colleagues are committed to doing quality work. On the other hand, only 57% of secondary teaching staff indicate that they are appreciated or recognized for doing good work, and 49% feel as though their opinions seem to count. On this question, instructional staff were asked, in the past week, approximately what percentage of your students completed the distance learning activities provided? In considering this information, you can see that as compared to the national sample, Osseo had a 4% lower percentage of students completing distance learning activities at a rate of 0 to 50%. In contrast, Osseo teachers indicate that 7% of students complete between 91 and 100% of all distance learning activities, while nationally, teachers indicate that 14% of their students complete between 91 and 100% of all activities. Here we ask staff to estimate the frequency with which they've done each of the following with all or most of their students. On all 4 questions asked, Osseo results are between 15 and 65% higher than the national average in terms of what is being provided for students from an instructional standpoint. As we think about the extent to which we have any opportunities for improvement, this is one area in which we exceed the May 2020 national averages by a significant margin. We do not have comparable national averages for the fall or the winter. Our final table asked staff to indicate their current level of need for additional support from school or district leaders in each of the following areas. As we look at this information, it is apparent that from staff members that indicated that they need less support with distance learning across all 6 indicators than the national average. Conversely, when we examine in-person learning, OSSEO staff indicated a greater need for support with students across all indicators. This slide indicates the top 5 most frequently occurring qualitative responses from staff to this question: what has worked well for you this year that you hope to continue next year? With number 1 being digital education tools, followed by curriculum and instruction, teamwork and collaboration, family engagement, and flexibility for staff. Finally, this slide indicates the top 5 most frequently occurring qualitative responses from staff to this question: what additional support do you need at this time? Number 1 was consistency, communication, collaboration, and leadership. 2, more time or a reduced workload. 3, additional staff and or funding. 4, dealing with stress. And last, safety and health.
As mentioned earlier, our identified strategic directions were listed at the bottom of each slide. Our pulse survey allows us to further understand the conditions of excellence within our system and offers insight into how we are doing in realizing our strategic directions. We are committed to using these results to improve outcomes for each of our stakeholder groups, as was the case with the earlier reports. These results have been shared widely within the system, and results have been discussed in multiple meetings. At this time, we open or pass it back to Superintendent McIntyre or Chair Dawson-Walton for questions.
All right, we'll go down the row here. We'll start with Director Grady. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and I really appreciate everybody's effort and checking in with our communities and knowing how they're doing. I'm concerned with the staff survey results about feeling safe and welcome at school. On the original report, it says when asked if staff at school if them feel welcome, 36% of all staff strongly agreed in February of 2021, which was down from 50% in February of 2020 and 43% in November of 22. So my question is what are we doing as a system to make sure that staff feel safe and welcome? Because teachers cannot help create safe and welcoming environments for our students when they themselves do not feel safe and welcome.
I'll jump in. I think this is a great example of the COVID fatigue that was about this point in the year when the survey was administered, along with the mental health conversation we've been having throughout, and just moving in and out of models and the uncertainty that comes with all those things. So, as we moved into the spring, we're seeing more stabilization, I guess is one word, as we move into more in-person learning. That's something people are familiar with versus moving in and out of a hybrid model, moving from distance learning, along with increased testing and vaccine opportunities. So we can tangibly feel the improvements that are in the tone of the conversations as we are seeing a little more hope with coming out of kind of the impacts and challenges of COVID. So I think, this winter timeframe was a really good snapshot, I guess, of kind of what we were seeing across not only staff, but community and students. And it was a tough winter. So I'm really curious to see as we do this again in the spring, what differences we might see not only from fall to winter, but now to spring. So I think there's a variety of causes or reasons for that, and you might get individual answers from individual people around what at that point in time what was impacting them the most. So I don't know if Michael or Jeremy, you have any additions to that based on your conversations on putting the data together, but that's a little bit more of my kind of assessment of things.
Yeah, I would offer that this is a relatively new data set. We do have a meeting with our leaders on Thursday of this week in which we'll have more conversations about it. And I imagine that, as Superintendent McIntyre just mentioned, that locally the context may be different. So it's an area of focus that we want to make sure that we ask, that we check in. We've resourced differently as well, and I would offer as a result of the trial that's taken place and some of the recent hate crimes that we're seeing, there is an influx of intentionality that is being seen across the district. By doing so, I hope that organically there's also a safety and security component there. So this is one of those questions, results that we also want to go deeper in, right? I'd almost love to be able to know who responded in that way and figured out, okay, because this is quantitative, there's also qualitative, to ask some of these questions. So succinctly, we do have an opportunity to engage our leaders on Thursday. And I think as a result of our social backdrop that we have right now, there's also an influx of support and intentionality that's happening as well.
Thank you.
Director Brooks?
I don't have a ton of questions necessarily, particularly given your comments that this is a new data set. But I guess I just want to thank all of our students, families, and staff that actually participated in this for them actually taking the time to do so. I am not a huge survey fan myself, so but I clearly see and know how valuable this information is. One of the things that stuck out to me is that there appears to be a clear disconnect with our Hispanic students. So I'd like to see us address that, going forward. Additionally, going back to the point you just made, Michael, it would be helpful to know, with this information that comes in, maybe what strategies have been introduced since the last pulse survey, and then also additional information on what's happening within the school environment or within our community that could be impacting some of these numbers as well. I know that's more work and more data to gather, but it would be good to have that information as well. But no additional questions on this. I just appreciate the info.
Thank you, Director. Ms. Gata-Jones?
First of all, if you could express my gratitude to your number crunchers. Tom and Jenna, is it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I'm a numbers geek, so I know how much they had to dig into the data to get such specific differentials here, and I appreciate that. Second, thank you for this presentation, and thank you again to all the stakeholders that completed these pulse surveys. And I really appreciate it because I know that some families are feeling kind of survey fatigue, but this data is helpful. My only question is, because I know this is a new data set, do we go back to certain stakeholder groups on some of these red areas that we've seen to say, okay, what ideas do you have to improve this? For instance, Director Grady's example about teachers. What ideas do you have to improve this particular thing? Or talking to our, and what I've seen is it's the English-speaking Latinx students that have had the greatest amounts of red zones, let's just call it, in our data set. Go to that stakeholder group and say, hey, what can we do to be more supportive, or what ideas do you have? Kind of my question.
One of the strategies that I think we're going to try to do, and as we learn, kind of that's the next step you identified so well, is what do we do with this and how we make change happen with it, right?
Right.
And that change can happen most strongly at the school level. So how do we take that from our leader support and really drill that into what can we do differently in each community? Because, the survey is a cross-section of our whole district, and how can we, verify, validate that what we've learned from this is true in any one of our schools, and then how do we turn that into an actionable solution or support that's really kind of tailored to each site. Now, we're also looking at that from a district level too, because we see the themes, and I really love the qualitative themes too that help us just kind of put it into language that can help us turn that into action. So, but how do we make that support focused and intentional for each story at each of our communities? So it's a little bit of a large scale and small scale effort here, and I don't know if that's where we're going to start digging into that with our leaders at the school level. We'll have to have more conversations about next steps with how do we follow up with the, Jeremy shared the percentages of participation, and how can we go back and get that same kind of feedback. And maybe that's something we can think about with we've been wrestling with, do you stick with the same questions or do we ask new ones? Because we have new interest and new wonderings as we get each survey. And do we stick with the same questions for consistency? So we're kind of unpacking, wrestling with what's the right approach. I want to make sure I give Jeremy and Michael a chance to respond too, but that's my initial thinking as we were trying to get this shared with you as quickly as we could. Yeah, so.
Sure, and I would offer that asking questions of historically disenfranchised groups to solve our problems is a delicate balance sometimes.
Yes.
And so I want to be mindful of that. I think there's some other data points that we can also look at, whether it be the engagement survey. We do have some historical data as well from different groups with the teamworks that we had, now albeit a year old, but it's still relevant data. And then we also have the ECAP data as well. So I think if we begin to triangulate, well, I guess that's more than 3. So, bring all those data points together. What meaning can we make of that? Because there is a challenge. There is concern sometimes going to disenfranchised groups and continuing to ask them to solve our issues. I know that was not what you were suggesting. That's just something that I'm mindful of about how we can bring about meaning using our expertise, not blindly, intentionally, and then being able to co-create with them once we come with our identified gaps.
Right, and I think what I was getting at is the co-creation. I guess my perspective is what I don't want to see is us coming up with solutions that once again end up marginalizing, or we end up coming up with, doing all this work to come up with solutions that really aren't valid or reliable. And so, I'm just thinking of Khalifa's work, which you know well, about engaging with the community and doing it together. And so how are we going to do that from the school level and the district level to make sure we're not like spinning our wheels?
Yeah, and this is going to be one of the items as we create the RISE committee, that we're going to go through, comb through our data intentionally and ask those type of questions and be challenged in a meaningful way. And so that notion of co-creation is exactly the intent.
It's also really good learning for our fairly newly formed community engagement team too, as far as where can we focus efforts and how do we engage as we're building out that team and that model that you heard about recently.
I appreciate it, thanks. I'm good.
Thank you. Director Simons.
Yeah, I think the information being really fresh, I can have appreciation for digesting it and then determining kind of what the solves are. So I have appreciation for that. I think lots of red flags, here as we saw students maybe not quite have the educational experience during COVID that we might have aimed for or hoped for, recognizing the challenges of it. So I'm concerned about the percent of completion of work. I'm not sure what that's going to mean for learning loss when I see how many are below 60% in completing work. I think there's some alarming numbers about the level of engagement and interesting classes, and again, that's correlated to the work completion. So it'll be challenging as we continue to move forward. And I think this reflects a lot of what our families have been telling us and the significant need for students to be in person full-time. Again, limited by the state's choices in that for our district as well. So I think this confirms much of what we saw and expected and are disappointed about, but that does not negate the good work in a very different challenge to offer our students the best opportunities during that time. So I think it just confirms what we know, what we need to work on. Definitely the belonging, the staff climate are things that we'll need to repair over time. And I think that's really how we have to look at this. You know, a lot of things broke during COVID, and maybe that's okay that some things broke because we can fix them and we can rebuild them better in the future. So I think that's really where the mindset has to be, is as we hopefully have a return to normalcy, how do we build new things that can better meet the needs of our students, create better sense of belonging with students and staff going forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that fits to our strategic work as well. Thanks.
If I can, one thing that I might offer, just as I continue to listen and process through, especially some of the information that I hear you referencing about staff and feeling a sense of belonging. As I look at this information and I continue to try to unpack it, one of the things I found myself even today, as I was looking at it, having to remind myself of the fact that this survey went to staff, especially at the elementary level, a week to 10 days prior to a massive learning model change. So tension was high. They were under a great amount of pressure and stress, and I can't help but wonder the extent to which that may or may not have impacted some of their results. So I just want to be mindful of that and where they were at individually as they were transitioning into that space, and how hard that was for our building leaders as well. And as is the case, you know, when something's happening at the elementary level, secondary teachers, I'm sure by nature, we're sitting there thinking, we're going to potentially be next. And so as I think about the associated stress around that unknown, I can't help but wonder. It's just a wondering. It's not necessarily an answer, but it's something I'm trying to make sure that I'm cognizant of as I examine the information, because I want to honor and recognize that stress and how difficult that transition was for our school staff.
Dr. Douglas.
Thank you. Jeremy, I just wanted to say thank you for recognizing that. That was one of the comments that I was going to make, was that this survey and every survey that we do is just a specific point in time, and it gives us a lot of valuable information, but it's just that moment, and things can change very rapidly, as we've seen happen so many times over this last year. So just keeping that perspective and emphasizing how we can use the information to improve our processes in our environment and our system. I did have a couple of questions. I may have missed the specific information. I noticed that 761 students completed the survey. What percentage of students is that compared to the ones who were given the survey?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll check with Tom and see if I can get you that exact number. So in other words, you're looking for, of the percent asked.
How many completed it?
Got it.
Yeah,
I
and
can
same
get you that
thing with the teachers. I think that one, I'm guessing, is around 50%, but I'm not sure how many, or not teachers, staff members. But I could be wrong on that. Do you have any idea on that? Because it was 1,549 staff members completed the survey.
Yeah, I'm just looking back. Michael, were there percentages that toward the beginning, I think, maybe we offered?
I know he shared the percentage for the parent response rate, which was 38%.
Yeah, we had 51% of staff and 62% of students, again,
That were
to your
given
point, in the sample responded. So it might
Yeah.
be interesting to know how many were in that sample.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, so those were the couple of questions I had, just to kind of gauge how many people are actually responding. I'm really excited to know that over 50% of our teachers responded. It is very valuable to hear their perspectives, and that so many of them did, especially when I feel like the average rate for any type of survey is more like around the 40%. We got a little bit more response on that. So thank you to all the teachers and staff members who responded. It really helps us evaluate how to move forward and what we can do to make a more welcoming and better work environment for our staff members. So that is really all the comments I have today. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just would add, you know, and like Jackie, I'm not a numbers geek, so I really appreciated the qualitative themes. I think that was really helpful, and it really put things in perspective in terms of our kind of future strategic planning and in all the work that we're doing. The one thing I was going to ask, maybe I missed this part, but were there qualitative themes for the students?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. And I just would say, I mean, you know, I don't know if we're, like many of my colleagues have said, we're not so surprised. I think the risk of doing surveys is then what? What are we doing with it? And so, I think we all want and expect and, anticipate, what is next once the data is kind of looked at, and then what can we do, and how do we plug it into what we're already doing. But I agree with Director Simons. I mean, I think that now that we kind of know right now the basis, and we can grow from it. I think having the quantitative and qualitative together paint a nice picture of where we need to go and how we rebuild, but then build on what's really working. So thank you so much for the presentation. Were you going to add anything? No? Okay. So at this time, we will take a brief 10-minute recess and return at 7:25 p.m. Thank you. All right, welcome back. We will resume the Osseo School Board meeting at 7:25 p.m. Our next agenda item is the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items that you would like to remove for separate consideration? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Director Simons, seconded by Director Douglas. To approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0.
Chair Dawson Walton, may I step in with a few comments?
Yes.
Thank you. Board members, in the personnel consent agenda, you approved the retirements of a number of amazing staff who have given their careers to education and the students of ISD 279. I'd like to step a bit outside of our standard retiree recognition, as there's one person whose retirement is listed that I'd like to take some time to put the spotlight on, and that is Barb Olson, our Director of Community Relations. Barb's first day, I think this is accurate, in the district was August 11th, 2008. Her retirement date is June 30th, 2021. In the list of initiatives that Barb has led and supported is very impressive, to say the least. It's nearly impossible in just a couple minutes to try to capture all of them and all the contributions Barb has made to so many over her career. However, I have to take a brief moment to just make note of some of the many significant contributions Barb has made, all with the focus on her incredible communication and public relations skills on behalf of Osseo area schools. So just to name a few, right? But they're nowhere near comprehensive, the whole list. Our grade span transition. So these are memories for you, I'm sure, right? The reconfiguring of our schools to grades K-5, transitioning middle schools to 6-8, and high schools to 9th through 12th grade. Successful operating and technology levy referendums. Really historic investment, capital projects, including building additions and renovations, et cetera. Implementation of standards-based grading and instruction. The transition of board members on and off of the school board. And many, many, many emergency and crisis communications that can come at any day or any time of day. But I would say nothing's prepared us anymore, any of us really, including Barb, for what has transpired over the past year. On March 15th, 2020, the whole entire state went into school closure, and Barb led our communications effort on messages regarding so many things we've never done before. Barb assisted with endless communications with the highest volume, we measured this, right? The highest volume we've ever seen since we've started to keep track, including communications for multiple learning model changes, moving in and out of distance learning, hybrid and in-person learning, along with communications regarding a whole new school, our Distance Learning Academy. Barb's also assisted with communications for COVID-19 testing and vaccine opportunities and logistics with our, with partnership with MDE, MDH, and Hennepin County Public Health. So I never thought you probably never thought you'd be doing communications on vaccine, right? In the middle of these things, she's led the effort through all this for a complete redesign and launch of our school district website, and has, which has really served us as the central location for all the information of the district during the pandemic. And if my math serves me right, over your career, I believe you've worked for 5 different superintendents here in Osseo. It appears now that I'm the one who finally drove you into retirement. And after training me in during the pandemic, you've simply decided you've had enough. But personally, I am indebted to Barb for her never-ending guidance and support and friendship to me as a new superintendent. Who knew in the first year we'd just dive into a global pandemic together, right? And I must say, I wouldn't have wanted to face that without our cabinet, our district and building leaders and our staff, but none of those colleagues have been more important to me than Barb. Barb truly exemplifies the word grace in all that you do. Something that we've all needed a lot from each other this year. And for those of you who know Barb, she works around the clock to get things done. We get messages from her day and night. She has shown tremendous knowledge, skill, poise, calm, and focus on a wide range of difficult circumstances. She's been a trusted colleague who's honest and has always kept the focus on students first and providing value to our schools, our families, and our communities. Barb's a highly respected professional, not only in our district, not only in the metro, but across the state, and has played key leadership roles in the Minnesota School Public Relations Association. Basically, everybody knows Barb. She's also extremely well respected, and I didn't know this until I got here, but so well respected by our local and regional media outlets, both print and TV, with so many of local reporters often reaching out to Barb for information to make sure it's accurate and factual no matter the topic. The physical space and workspaces in the superintendent's office really allow for very close working relationships, or at least they did before we were working remotely. But together, we're really able to experience a lot of good things and also endure and do what we can with the challenging things, always striving to do the best we can for the entire district. Barb's experience, wisdom, knowledge, leadership, and just general care, it's just unbelievable, along with all those great abilities to communicate so effectively. And all those things really drive our work. We do have a next couple months to work with Barb, whatever that may look like in the ever-changing times we're in. And along with Joan and Sherry in my office, we wanted to express how much we will miss you, how much we appreciate you, and how much you deserve and have earned your upcoming retirement. So please accept these flowers from us. No district funds were used. Ron, no district funds. For our sincere thank you and congratulations.
Wow.
So thank you, Chair Dustin Walton, for a few minutes. I'm sure some board members would like to add some comments as well.
Can we clap?
Barb, first, I would like to wish you a wonderful retirement. You always seem to have the most perfect, thoughtful words to say. And I know, and I've heard just in my own line of work, just that you really are, really well respected throughout the communications and community relations world. And as a board member, I am very grateful for your advisement and your sound perspective. And in my time here, I'm just not sure, and this is really kind of speaking to what Corey said too, how we would have been able to navigate so many difficult situations and topics, especially this last year. The communication, it was really the eyes in and out of our district. And I believe that, excellent communications, really starts with relationships, strong and trusting relationships. And you've done that with complete dedication and empathy for all of our employees and our students and families. You really have. And And as you look back, in your time here, all of the things that Corey just talked about, and just the impact that you've made, I mean, it's amazing. And you've made an impact on our, whole district community, and me. And so I will miss you very much. And I'm so excited for you. Very, very excited. So I just want to open up to any other board member that would like to say anything.
Barb, I've had the privilege of working with you for 4 years, and I just want to say that everything that Corey and Kelsey said is 100% true. One thing that I feel like I've learned from you is how you ask questions in a way that is so compassionate to the person who you're asking the question of, and thought-provoking, but in a really simple and gentle way that allows us to think about things in a different way that I have never met anybody else who's able to do that with such just grace and ease, and just make people feel just comfortable talking to you, especially when we're experiencing difficult situations that are emotional or intense, and to help navigate through these really difficult things that we're experiencing as a district. You've been just incredible in those ways. I've honestly never met anybody just able to do that. It just seems like a skill I would like to emulate and learn how to do, because you just do it so well, and I just really appreciate how you've been able to serve this district and our community with just such grace and compassion for everyone you encounter. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I haven't had the opportunity to work with you as long as Heather, but I would echo those statements, and it's just been a pleasure to partner with you, to get to know you a little bit in the last 2 years, and I really would echo that the community sees your work and your professionalism, and you're so well respected in our community, and we're going to miss you. I'm a little nervous about going forward, and your expertise has just been so incredible, and appreciate the ways that you work and connect with people, and so best of luck in your retirement.
Thank you.
Barb, I'm so happy for you. I am just so happy for you. And I don't want to repeat what everyone says because it's all true. So we all know that. It's sitting in the space already. I do want to say and emphasize the one thing I know about you and what I love about you is that we can talk about empathy, and then there's Barb empathy. Barb empathy is you physically feel what other people are feeling. I mean, I can feel it coming from you when other people are struggling, that you walk the walk with them. And I appreciate that so much from you. And it's been a gift to me and our district. And I know it's also been difficult when people are not as happy. Because people who care as much as you do, it gets to you. But you've just ridden it with true grace. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if this is just a coincidence, but I joined the board and then you retire. No, but I am a firm believer that things happen when and the way that they're supposed to. And like everyone has said, I think you are ending your career on a high. It may not feel that way. I'm sure you're exhausted, as you should be. But like everyone has said, I can't imagine having gone through this pandemic without all of the wisdom and experience that you've gained over these years, and helping our community and district get through it. So thank you very much for everything you've done for our district. I am a little jealous, but good luck on your retirement. And yeah, enjoy your time. You've earned it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barb, I am so impressed with your intelligence, your professionalism, and the consistency and design of communications across all platforms throughout the district. especially through challenging times. And I just want to say thank you for your service, and I am so excited for your next journey with your family.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I don't, whether this is on or not, I want to thank you all. You're more than generous with your comments. And I also want to credit, I have an absolutely outstanding team. And absolutely, everything that was said here tonight is also a credit to my team. Could not be here without them. So I want to make sure to recognize them as well. And thank you so much. You're very generous. I really appreciate it all. It's been an honor, a pleasure. All those true things are true, and I really will always hold a special place in my heart for Osseo. Always going to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
I had a loophole if you guys didn't accept the consent agenda. You should have waited for me. We could have kept her.
I already tried that.
Why, how come nobody removed personnel from the have to do that, huh?
It was a great plan.
Okay, all right. Our first action item tonight is a resolution condemning xenophobic, racist, and anti-Asian attacks elevated by COVID-19. Director Mosqueda-Jones, would you like to read the resolution?
Yes, thank you. So, board, I would like to read, and audience members, I would like to read the resolution that is before us tonight, dated March 23rd, 2020. Resolution condemning xenophobic, racist, and all anti-Asian attacks elevated by COVID-19. Whereas COVID-19 is fueling bias, fear, hostility, hate, and racism against our Asian and Pacific Islander communities. And whereas Osseo area schools is the district home to approximately 3,956 students of Asian descent, accounting for over 19% of the student body, many from refugee and immigrant communities, including but not limited to Hmong, Karen, Burmese, Vietnamese, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Karenni, and multiracial. And whereas Osseo Area Schools believes that students deserve respectful learning environments in which their racial and ethnic diversity is valued and celebrated. And whereas Osseo Area Schools is committed to inspiring and preparing all students with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning, therefore standing against hate and bigotry toward all our students, staff, families, and community. And whereas Osseo Area Schools is the employer of 162 staff members who identify as Asian Pacific Islander, comprising 3.95% of all staff. And whereas API students, staff, families, and community are valued members of a thriving, diverse Osseo Area Schools family that spans languages, nationalities, ethnicities, cultures, and more. And whereas throughout history, pandemics and other events have bred misinformation, hysteria, stigma, scapegoating, and racial and ethnic discrimination. And whereas Osseo Area Schools recognizes and acknowledges that our API community has historically experienced discrimination, xenophobia, and racism, resulting in historical trauma, feelings of invisibility, and negative effects on their overall health and well-being. And whereas in the wake of COVID-19, anti-Asian stigma has galvanized white nationalism and supremacy culture that promotes and breeds discord. And whereas communities of API descent have experienced a surge of racial shunning, harassment, discrimination, and violent attacks as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas there is an increase of racist rhetoric and terminology identifying COVID-19 using language that is marginalizing and debilitating to the humanity of our Asian and Pacific Islander students, staff, families, and communities. And whereas as communities adapt and respond to COVID-19, API Minnesotans also report that their safety and equal access to goods and services is compromised because of increasing harassment, xenophobic, and racist behaviors. Whereas Osseo Area Schools maintains and enforces racial equity, gender inclusion, equal opportunity, non-discrimination, anti-bullying, anti-harassment, anti-violence, behavior standards, and anti-retaliation policies. And whereas Osseo Area Schools provides educators with the expectations, resources, and support to provide instruction to students in digital citizenship, bullying prevention, and specific lessons on coronavirus stereotypes, fears, and racism. So therefore, be it resolved that Osseo Area Schools hereby reaffirms all policies, practices, and procedures to hold ourselves accountable to ensure that our API students, staff, families, and community are not subjected to bias, harassment, discrimination, violence, or retaliation. And further, be it resolved that Osseo Area Schools will provide accurate, effective, and unbiased messaging related to the COVID-19 virus. And further, be it resolved that Osseo Area Schools condemns any anti-Asian sentiments targeting our Asian Pacific Islander students, staff, families, and community. And further, be it resolved that Osseo Area Schools commits to partnering with public and private institutions, organizations working to address xenophobia and racism directed toward Asian and Pacific Islanders in Minnesota. And finally, be it resolved, the School Board of Osseo Area Schools urges local, state, federal authorities to take immediate action to ensure the safety of these communities against racism and xenophobia.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution condemning xenophobic, racist, and anti-Asian attacks elevated by COVID-19?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Director Grady, seconded by Director Brooks, excuse me. Is there any discussion? Anybody? I'll start with Director Grady.
Yeah, just want to point out some really important data in this, that Asian Americans make up 19% of the Osseo students and nearly 4% of the staff. And that as a school board member, I am proud to work for a district that seeks to collaborate with public and private organizations to condemn anti-Asian hate. The district holds itself accountable to anti-discrimination and equity policies and provides our school communities with specific lessons on coronavirus stereotypes, fears, and racism. And finally, I want to thank Director Mosqueda Jones for her unwavering commitment to equity and lifting the voices of each and every student.
Thank you, Director Brooks.
I too want to thank Director Mosqueda Jones for bringing forth this resolution, as well as all of these students and families and staff that were outside of the meeting today, letting their voices be heard. This resolution for me is a no-brainer and timely. The fact that any group within our district feels like they need to come forward just to be seen and just to feel heard is a problem for me. This is just one step to make sure that we are acknowledging this climate and this environment that our Asian American and Pacific Islander students are feeling. And I do look forward to more work ahead and making sure that these students feel welcome and appreciated throughout our schools and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Mosqueda-Jones.
I want to thank the many families and staff and the Coalition for Asian American Leadership for continually holding me accountable and for sharing stories to make sure that when we're addressing racism, that we're addressing racism across all cultures and races. That's it.
Thank you. Director Simon.
Yeah, I appreciate the spirit and intention with which this was brought forward, and certainly the Hmong population, the Asian American population in our district is so bedrock to who we are as a district. And we've talked a lot about the amazing ways that we love seeing the Asian culture is celebrated in our district, and I've attended events. We've talked about dual immersion language schools that we want to see. I just have a lot of heart for ensuring that our students feel appreciated and valued and understand just how foundational all of the people of our district are, and particularly with Brooklyn Park being the third largest Hmong community in Minnesota. It's a differential type of makeup and contribution in our district in particular. And so my challenge is that with this particular resolution, I've expressed this the last time we had a resolution, and since in between the resolution, that the process by which we do these and bring these forward don't allow for a true collaborative engagement of the board in a public setting. And I would have liked us to be able to really discuss this in a work session to feel that all of our authentic voices are expressed. I don't like to create the boilerplate resolutions that really doesn't feel like it's my authentic voice for the work that we need to do, the commitments that we want to make. And I think I've expressed this before when we talk about board actions, that we should be thinking about that not via a resolution format, but through action items that are part of our board business. With that, I find myself in the frustrating position yet again, where I don't get to speak with my authentic voice in these really important pieces of work that we do. But if I fail to support it, it conveys a message that's not consistent with my intentions. So I'm hopeful. We have work ahead of us, and we've said we were going to do this, to put it into a board work session on how we do resolutions and how we do this going forward. And I really think that's so critical, so that we can be speaking with one authentic voice as a school board in these matters, and really thinking about our unique district and what our lived experiences are in our district and supporting them with an authentic voice. So that's my challenge here. Further, there is one particular item I don't disagree with really anything in the items of what we're resolved to do, other than I would like to offer a motion of amendment to remove the section of the Osseo Area Schools commits to partner with public and private institutions, organizations working to address xenophobia and racism directed toward Asian and Pacific Islanders in Minnesota. And the reason for that is because that's a commitment of board resources. It's not specific to what organizations or what specific objectives, and I really feel that's an action item that I would like to take to a work session, or to hear more from Superintendent McIntyre on what we would specifically do there. So with that, I make that motion. I can support the remainder of it despite the reservations that I've expressed.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion that Director Simons brought forth to amend the resolution to take out is the second to the last one?
Yeah, with that, to move it to a work session.
To move that, I'll read it. The clause, further be it resolved that Osseo Area Schools commits to partnering with public and private institutions, organizations working to address xenophobia and racism directed toward Asian and Pacific Islanders in Minnesota. And so there's a motion to amend this resolution to take that out and take this to a work session to discuss further. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
I also have something to say, but
Okay.
I'll yield to Thomas.
I'll just make it quick. I absolutely do not support this amendment. The district should already be partnering with outside organizations, particularly when it relates to certain communities that make up our district. Xenophobia and racism are completely against what this district stands for, and so I don't see anything wrong with, I don't see any reason why the district should not continue to work with organizations that support the communities within our district and that stand against xenophobia and racism. Yeah, I just can't wrap my head around this one right now, so.
Director Douglas?
Thank you. So I do support this amendment, and the reason is that earlier tonight we heard from our Cal representative who spoke specifically to concrete action that we need to take, which is something that we absolutely need to do. Clear processes need to be identified. Trainings and specific outcomes. When we take action on something like this, it needs to be in an action item so that we are making a clear commitment to what our intention is, what our desired outcomes are, and a process for evaluating what those are. I don't see this as saying that we're not going to commit to partnering. It's saying that we're specifically partnering with specific organizations for a set period of time with specific outcomes in mind to be evaluated to determine whether or not these commitments are actually serving our students and families and staff members in the intended fashion. Because if we make commitments ambiguously, such as this, we don't have a timeline for evaluation, we don't have a commitment to a specific organization, and we don't have a specific amount of dollars committed to making these, addressing these specific issues, which are very important to our community. And like Director Grady said, this is almost 20% of our student population. This is a huge, huge section of our community, and as Director Simon said, the third largest Hmong community in our state resides within our district. I think that it's critical that we evaluate this from an action item, this specific piece. I also have no issues with the rest of the resolution. I think that it encompasses and represents our shared values and our stance against racism and anti-bullying, discrimination, xenophobia. These are things that we do not support in this district against anyone. And I think that if we're going to take action on this and make a resolution, we really need to bring this specific commitment to an action item and a work session so that we can show that our community, this isn't just words, this isn't just some ambiguous thing, this is something we're actually doing, and this is how we're going to do it. And that way we can receive specific community feedback on those action items. So that's my position on it. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak. Okay, any other directors would like to speak to this?
Yes. I am struggling to figure out how or why this is even debatable, this resolution in its entirety. I don't think any director up here would not be willing and would not want to take some time within a work session to continue to have this discussion and continue to work through some of those action items. I'm not sure how leaving this particular phrase within the resolution gets in the way of us being able to do this work in a work session.
Yeah. Could I just ask a question of General Counsel? Tim, could you please explain what happens when a resolution doesn't have an identified timeline or specific guidelines on the commitments that we've made?
I mean, it's a statement of the board, essentially, is what it amounts to, is my best read on it.
I think Corey.
Superintendent
Yeah,
McIntyre?
maybe I can add some context here.
Thank
The
you.
intent behind this item is not to be entering into agreements, formal binding agreements. Anything over $50,000 comes to the board for your approval. Anything under is an administrative decision, and this item is not intended to be any kind of binding contract. We work with Cal every day. That's a partnership. That's sharing of time, other things like that. So it's not, this wasn't intended to be a commitment of specific contracted commitments or resources of dollars in that kind of fashion. This is community partnerships and working together with sharing of resources, not in the sense of a formal action item. We do lots of different partnering with community agencies that don't require board action. They do require board action over a certain dollar amount, and we are by law required to bring those forward to you. So hopefully the context of this is working together. How do we support our communities together? We're stronger together, not in isolation. So I hope that can help clear up any, I think you're right around the lens of if it is committing to specific numbers of staff, for example, that could live on for a very long time, but that is not what this is committing the board to. This is just suggesting, let's take advantage of the expertise around different community groups that can help support our families, students, and communities. And we have, examples of that. I love the idea of studying it further, bringing more actionable items forward, but this is not this specific line item was not intended to be a technical one, committing of specific numbers of dollars or contracts and things of that nature. So maybe that just gives you a little more additional perspective on the intent as I see it.
Thank you. Director Grady?
Yeah, I really see this as a statement to support the API community, and I see it as a starting place. I really look forward, I'm excited about Director Douglas and Director Simon's insistence on the engagement and a dialogue and a work session to create evidence-based and action-oriented goals that can further this from a statement of support into ways that we can find actionable ways to support the community. Thank you.
Director Mosquito-Jones?
Yes. So I'm just a little confused by the conversation. My understanding is that this is a statement of support for our families, and that we are committed already through other means, strategic direction, on tackling xenophobia and racism, and we're working through our RISE committee and through our work sessions to come up with actionable items. And so I was confused at the idea of putting an actionable item on this resolution, because I thought this resolution was like the preamble, the statement of we support, now let's get down to work in a work session. So I guess that's where I
Okay,
was.
so what we're looking at now is a motion to amend we have a motion on the table and seconded to amend the second to last clause, further be it resolved, to take it out, to study it, to take it to a work session. So that's what I'm gonna take a vote on now.
Could I just ask one more?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and again, so we had some vague language the last time and said that it would not be, that these are things that would come back to the board that we'd review, discuss, act on, and we never did. So that's my concern, is that when we're talking about things that are vague and committing that we're going to do something, I don't think it should be vague, and it has not come back to us the last time that occurred. So that's why I feel very passionate about that item.
I just would like a little bit of clarification, because my understanding, and please educate me if I'm incorrect on this, is that when we commit to when we create a resolution and we commit to it, that this is now something that we have decided we're doing, and the language in this is a little bit ambiguous. We're committing to partnering with public and private institutions or organizations, and it doesn't identify what that looks like. And I understand that the spirit of it is, well, we're already doing this, and these are the things that we're doing, but my fear is that we say we're committing to doing this, and then we're taking specific action, but people say, well, you're not fulfilling your commitment that you made through this resolution. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here.
And I feel, we've really spoke at length about this action, and I'm ready to take a vote on it. So let's take a vote to to support the motion to take this resolution off of, remove it from the original resolution to study at a further work session. So there's a second on the table, so we'll take a vote. All in favor of amending the resolution to remove the second be it resolved clause out of this?
Aye.
Say aye.
It's the third, just,
Oh, yeah.
Is
so
it?
the-
yeah, just,
Second to last.
Second to last, right.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, motion fails. So, going back to, I think where we were at is Director Simons got for that motion and had part of the discussion. Director Douglas, do you have anything else you want to add? No? Okay. So I guess what I want to add is I'm really grateful for this resolution. I want our Asian and Asian American Pacific Islander students and staff and families to know that you are very valued and you are safe here. And Michelle had mentioned, schools are like a second home. And, the foundation has been laid already with the resolution this summer addressing systemic racism. And I would say that there's been a lot of movement toward the actions of that, and we'll hear about that in the next month and a half. And our district won't stand for hate. That's just the bottom line, and I believe we're all in agreement with that. So, and I want to also add, it's not lost on me that today is late board chair of the St. Paul Public School, Marnie Zhang, who is my friend. It's her birthday today. And she passed away from COVID and Hmong, and one of her final school board actions was this resolution to address these very principles and values. And so I just, I am, that's not lost on me today, how kind of the thing start to align. But, we've had a challenging year this year, to say the least, and one thing that I've seen is that our community is very engaged. We hear a lot of different voices, and this is one example of them. And I just want to keep encouraging our scholars, our employees, our families and communities to keep lifting up their voices. This is, again, a great example of that. So I think it's really awesome. And so now we will vote. All in favor of the resolution condemning xenophobic, racist, and anti-Asian attacks.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I just want to address that I have been trying to bring this up for a year now. And so when we talk about having voices be heard and bring it to a work session, I believe it's going to be different now, and that we can all, agree to bring things to work sessions. But I think it's past time for this.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-1. The final action item is a recommendation to accept gifts to the district totaling $300,098.85. Is there a motion to accept gifts to the district totaling $300,098.85?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Director Douglas, second by Director Brooks. Is there any discussion? 1, 2, 3, thank you. No, I was kidding. Thank you so much. Exciting things happening. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes 6-0. Now, informational items on this evening's agenda are first reading of policy 613, graduation requirements. Tim, Mr. Palmetier.
Thank you, Chair Dawson Walton, school board members, and Superintendent McIntyre. There's one policy on the agenda for first reading tonight. That's policy 613. Policy 613 concerns graduation requirements. This policy was last reviewed in January of 2019. Revisions to this policy are being proposed at the direction of the board in order to respond to the request by the American Indian Parent Advisory Council, otherwise known as APAC, that the board adopt a policy that ensures that American Indian students in the district are protected in their choice to wear tribal regalia or objects of cultural significance at graduation ceremonies. The American Indian Education Coordinator, the Department of Equity, and APAC were all consulted in the development of this policy. At the suggestion of APAC, the proposed language in the policy replicates portions of a policy bill that's currently before the state legislature, that is House File 950. The policy committee just reviewed this particular policy before the board meeting here tonight, and the following is what the policy subcommittee proposed to bring forward to the board for first reading. The school district will not prohibit American Indian students from wearing American Indian regalia, tribal regalia, or objects of cultural significance at graduation ceremonies. An American Indian student who intends to wear regalia or an object of cultural significance at their graduation ceremony will inform their school administration of the specific items that they will be wearing when submitting their graduation requirements checklist. First reading begins a 4-week period for reaction to the proposed policy by interested groups or individuals. After a 4-week period, the school board may adopt the policy after second reading. The proposed revisions to this policy will be made available on the district website following this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, good work, everyone, because that was really a fast result of our APEC, our meeting with our APEC committee, so thank you. So at this time, the board will be going into closed session. Is there a motion to recess the regular meeting for 10 minutes and reconvene in the forum room for the purpose of a closed meeting of the Osseo School Board pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 to consider strategy, parameters, and developments and labor negotiations for the following bargaining groups: RNs, LPNs, educational support professionals, administrative educational support professionals. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Director Douglas, second by Director Brooks. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Meeting recessed, is recessed at 8:10. The school board will adjourn at the conclusion of the closed session. Thank you.